The year is 1941. You're an African-American man driving through a small city in Missouri, and all of a sudden you get pulled over. Now you're lost and it's after 8 p.m. and the sun is already set. The police officer isn't pulling you over for any traffic violation or a busted taillight. He's pulling you over because you're black in a sundown town after the sun has gone down. I'm Andre, and this is Blackity Black History, Part 2. In short, sundown towns were city, towns, and neighborhoods where it was illegal to be black out after dark. The earliest occurrence of a sundown town that we know of was in New Hampshire in the early 1700s. They had an act to prevent disorders in the night because they believed Native Americans and African Americans were the only ones capable of committing crimes after dark. Sundown towns rose to prevalence after the Civil War and during Reconstruction, and our good old friend Jim Crow. With the massive racism and discrimination that African Americans faced on public transportation, we saw a boom in African Americans purchasing their own vehicles and actually traveling. But the issue with traveling as an African American is you did not want to be caught traveling as an African American. Historians and researchers have concluded that there were, at one time, over 10,000 sundown towns in America, and not just in the South. They spanned all the way to the Pacific Ocean in California. Some of the most dangerous and infamous stretches of sundown towns were on Route 66, which was built in 1926. This was a route where businesses were few and far in between, and many of them were not black-owned businesses, and many of them were very discriminatory towards black people. If you were black and caught in a sundown town, you would most likely be arrested, harmed, or a lot of times worse. Black people would do the best that they could to help each other. Black people did the best that they could to help each other during these hard times. One of the most well-known examples was the Negro Motorist Green Book, released by Victor Hugo Green. It was in publication from 1936 to 1966 and was basically a black person's travel guide. Don't go here, don't go there. And sundown towns sometimes weren't just for African Americans. There were 3 towns in Nevada that had an ordinance from 1917 to 1974 that required Native Americans to leave the towns by 6:30 p.m. each day. A whistle, later a siren, was sounded at 6 p.m. That siren still sounds to this day in Minden, Nevada. Chinese Americans were excluded from most of San Francisco, which led to the creation of Chinatown. Now, as we know, over the course of the 20th century, a lot of things changed, and a lot of those sundown towns went away. But in the year 2021, historians and researchers say that there are still about 100 plus sundown towns in America right now. So next time you're traveling through an absurdly small city or town that you've never been to before, do a quick Google search.
I can hate white folks with a passion. I don't have the power to see to it their children go to bad schools. I don't have the power to see to it they bail or sit higher than mine. That's what. When white folks say reverse racism, oh, come on, man. If I dislike you because you're a Jew, that's prejudice. If I dislike you because you're German, that's prejudice. Racism is the ability to control somebody else's faith and destiny. I don't have that power.
You're a boy. You've been coddled and cared for, pampered and hugged. For you, it's always summertime and the living is easy. Daddy's rich and your mama's good looking. You're a grand. You got money in your blood. You are a boy. I'm a man. I have worked for every single thing I have ever received. I have fought and scraped and bled for every inch of ground I walk on. I was the first in my family to go to college. My daughter went to boarding school with the children of kings. I made that happen. You cried yourself to sleep because Daddy hurt your feelings, because Papa banged his secretary, because it hurt to have so much money. You spoiled, entitled, ungrateful little brat. You have everything handed to you on a silver platter and you squander it. You're given the world and you can appreciate it because you haven't had to work for anything.
And don't you black people ever forget one thing. The man that helped Jesus carry that cross was a black man. And don't ever forget another thing. Jesus belongs to Africa as much as he does to Europe and Asia. He was born in that part of the world that touches Africa and Asia and Europe, and Jesus was not a white man like me, nor was he as black as some of you. We don't know what the color of his skin, but it must have been a dark color like the people of his day, because he was a man like them. Don't ever say it's a white man's religion or a black man's religion. It's a world religion. He belongs to the world.